listening, of course, I listen between. So I'm listening to this doctor on NPR, and she's just saying we just failed. She's like, United States, we fail because it's one thing to wear the mask, and it's one thing to social distance, but it's another thing to do it all together and at the same time. It needs to be comprehensive. And what they were saying is pointing to other examples. This is how it should have gone. Everybody in your household is immediately supposed to get tested. And if the people are positive in your household, they supposed to go together. And the people who are not positive, if they're negative in your household, they're supposed to be separated. And it was like, we decided, the United States decided very, very early on that we would not separate, negative from positive individuals in the same household, just for whatever reason. Like maybe it was that, man, they ain't going to go for that, which is what I'm probably thinking. It was like, man, they not going to go for that. And then she said another thing, what we touched on a lot, has to portray that, okay, cool, we know as the president, you got access to all kind of doctors and Ross. I'm balling. And he was just like, no, 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 no smoking, absolutely no smoking. And it's a hip hop rap video. And like, absolutely no smoking, no smoking, no smoking, no smoking. When Ross got this issue, that they have is that when does health get politicized? When you mix every time, you can't do it. You can't do it. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. So before I go further, Teddy T, tell us, what we got going on in here.
As well.
Yes, sir.
So, he automatically get in with me, and he has a great platform for independent artists.
Yes, sir.
And so I let him come on and DJ and the artists, independent artists, to get heard on our platform. You know what I mean? So, and on Wednesdays I do Bass Gang. This is the way of the future for us. You know what I mean? Podcasts. When I seen that what's the name, Joe Budden make $10 million, I was like, okay, this is where we need to be at now.
Exactly.
We need to be developing these shows, getting good content, and then being able to put them on great platforms like this.
That's what's up, man. I like that artwork. Riding in the dunk. Riding in the dunk. Okay, so here, we got a question, man. We got a question that came in from Eddie Pickens. He says, okay, I see Ross Sticky in the house.
Eddie, what's good?
Behind the COVID-19 outbreak that's coming from your man Eddie Pickens, man. So
Eddie, what they do?
So do we say there's a bigger plan politically with this virus, man? Do we think it's the purge? Is that's what's going on? Population, man. I mean, there's some people who say Bill Gates and his folks, man, they trying to reduce the population by 1 billion.
I see in the alleged talk throughout the ages of the years, there's been different people who've been carrying on, still people in these secret societies. Eugenics was very crazy to me in the night exterminated, because a lot of black families that was involved with that, things to combat that, happening to kill.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We had to be prepared that there is an actual enemy that is not visible.
Yeah, somebody you can't
see. And they have gotten into, we've never had no problem existing.
And the thing is, bringing in the first group of people from China for America in a sense, you feel me? Because up, you know what I'm saying? But I felt like things happen for a reason, because they have a plan how they could wipe certain people, pull the trigger on. You understand what I'm saying?
And with the United States, we have so many freedoms. We're one of the most freest societies in the world. Man. So the only way to take away those liberties from us is fear.
Exactly.
So they're going to say, hey, this is going on, so to protect you, we're going to do these things. Only it's by choice.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So this is the propaganda that they're putting together.
Exactly. And you got to look at the certain things they're allowing to happen right now, especially like with Trump supporters. I say Trump's police weren't really even giving them no hard time. If anything, they were standing right beside with them at the courthouse. You understand what I'm saying? So why was it so different when they protested with guns, but when Black Lives Matter or black people protested about, the different killings and police brutality, say this in threat. Why would you feel more threatened with an unarmed mass of people than an armed mass of people? It's because they've seen some people go out to these protesters, like for KKK protesters, whatever, and they'll say it's not a KKK rally, but everybody watch these people.
I was watching rally, and in the Trump rally, at the rally, and the folks, bro, was just going off on him. I mean, like, the hatred was so raw, bro.
Right.
And these were women. Like, they were just saying, like, you know, you're gonna be gone day one. We're gonna build that wall. Check it, like, right now. Like, this is America right now. These are, when you do the background, you find out that these are the teachers. These are the librarians work with every day. And the segue to get, is enduring right now. He BET in that since the 90s because they own Nickelodeon. The Rothschilds, and they start talking about, the Illuminati, and they just start talking about, he gonna give it to you how 90 years with the Nation of Islam, and Nick Cannon was there, and what they was talking about. But it's crazy to me and sisters, who I care deeply about, the ones that I'm friends.
Right.
But when they say stuff like, I went and I watched the podcast, and I read, what they was talking about, and they say things like, and I'm saying to myself, that's
True.
Anti-Semitic. I wish they would come in and say that black people control anything. I wish they would come in and say, we control anything.
That's it.
Anything in here. So to come in there and say that, that y'all are.
It was more so the
but that's
terms
how
because they.
I mean, it got deeper. And I said, talking about Jews running, Harvey Weinstein, George Soros. He's hated to talk about saying folks are put down necessarily. Yes, sir.
But that's who ran it. That's who created Beach
I mean,
Backstage.
what I'm
you got to
saying.
think oneself. He never allowed them to control him.
Right.
So what I said is y'all got to pay attention because he knew what he was doing by bringing.
Years ago.
Was it a new show?
No, that was 2 years ago.
No,
He
I
just-
thought it was
he
a new
just-
show.
He just
Somebody just
aired
surfaced
it.
it.
He just aired it.
I mean, because it's like Professor Griff run everything. That's the exact same thing he said. CBS told Def Jam if Public Enemy don't get rid of Professor Griff, that they're gonna drop Def Jam. And so they dropped Professor Griff, and Uncle Luke picked up Professor Griff.
That's right. I remember.
And
that's
they
right.
dropped
He
pawns
was
in
on
the
Luke.
game.
That's
Yeah.
right. He was on.
That whole situation, and like I felt like Public Enemy kind of sold out by bowing down, getting rid of Griff at that because Griff was.
2000. If you read the book by Flavor Flav, I read Flavor Flav's book, right? And Flavor Flav and Professor Griff did not get along.
Oh yeah, I know.
And so, you had to go with Flav.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Professor Griff body slammed Flav and broke his bones, man. And when one the grown man beat him up, bruh,
Made Public Enemy like the black essence of it, but Flavor Flav was the fool of Public Enemy that everybody loved. You know what I'm saying? So Griff was doing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so
right.
that's why Griff just kind of went rogue after a while and just started talking. You know what I'm saying? He just started saying all this stuff. Him and Khalid Muhammad. You remember Dr. Khalid Muhammad?
Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad.
Right. He was with Ice Cube.
Yeah.
This Ice Cube started talking all the same thing, like all.
Sisters,
Yeah.
I don't know if you think what this world is coming to. Yes. And
Right.
yes, sir.
Quick question. Now, isn't that kind of another company?
That
even though
shows
he
you the
owns his
power.
own
That
stuff,
shows you the power.
he owns his own shows, but because they're distributed by Viacom, they just snatched them off.
That's Jesse Jackson
MTV.
right
That's
there.
all that.
The one that says, "And some by the way we act, we even lost our minds." That's Professor of.
Our name, robbed of our language, we lost our religion, our culture, our God, and many of us, by the way we act,
And the reason why all male is that you cannot be racist if you're not in power.
That's right.
If you don't control to affect
What it is.
what it is, you know what I mean? It's just an opinion.
That's it.
Sure.
Is now why put this on air, right? I feel like this whole American way they move right now is trying to be encroaching on a lot of people's different.
Oh man, I
You just
graduated.
said
I
what was it?
graduated in '92.
What you said it was?
I graduated. It's all male. I graduated in '92. 2006, 2007. Man, I couldn't believe it. Well, they said they had to impose a dress code because some of the young boys
Come on now.
was coming in and it was like they was wearing dresses and bringing pocketbooks and high heel shoes. And I said, "There's no way." I couldn't talk about the coach, but they require that you go to, your freshman year, every Tuesday and Thursday. So once a week, you over in the chapel, and they bring different speakers. Like I remember, they brought Jesse Jackson. I remember them bringing. I remember being in a session and some stuff was going on right now. And he came out and, we hated it. You sitting over there and they take roll, so you had to be there. So, and they'll last like an hour and a at that time in 88 when I was a freshman there, you had the brothers, from LA who had the curls still. And it was still probably about maybe 2 or 3 that it took them a minute to shake it, like Ice Cube. It took them a minute to shake it. School days had just come out,
Right.
and it was a hard way to go, boy. If you rolled up to Morehouse at that time and you had a curl and you was on that culture, and I remember coming from the administration because Dean Carter, I would say, is just like this guy Navarro that we talking about in this current administration. When he come out, would certainly be considered homophobic. Right now, basically saying like we not on that, and we not here, whatever. And he said y'all go cogitate on that. We all ran out of. It was, what I mean? It's like we free, and we ran out, bro. That was 1988. So to go back 20 years later, I'm like, hold on. People were sending me an article. What it was, he was just mentioning like on your campus. I said nah. I went to that homecoming, bro, to see for myself. So I made sure I came in like on that Thursday. There's so many alumni coming in that you're not gonna really see what's really popping. Bro, I rolled up on campus like on that.
The circle, like it's totally different now. You can't even
change.
When I was there in 92, 93, like Morehouse and Spelman was 2 separate. It was guys and girls.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
I graduated with Enos Cosby, Bill Cosby's son.
Okay.
And you can see a
the one
change.
that passed away?
The one that got murdered out in California at Spelman. And you can see that Spelman is named for the wife of Rockefeller.
Right.
The investment, like the black wealth coming back, investing in your own institutions like Cosby built, the science built. It's time for their children to start. I guess we would see now with like Morehouse, man, I want you to go to Morehouse, be at Morehouse and do this or whatever. They're going to be like, is Jeeves going to getting this money? Thing was it. Some of my friends who went to like, white schools, traditionally white schools, and they was talking about registering. You waiting on the mail to come.
Everything.
And you sitting there and
there's
lines outside. It's lines wrapped around and if you had a complaint, I bet Dr. King ain't complain. Maynard Jackson ain't complain. Come through there. We have 5 president of Spelman, Fred Humphreys. A lot of money was starting to come to the school here, and you want to get that stuff, but it's man, when you get into it, just like if you go there now, like towards the end of the time that I was there, I want to say around about 92, when Africans start coming, matriculating. One of my line brothers is African, from Nigeria. Adetakumbe Ayedelika. Hey. Yoruba. Yeah, she's Yoruba. Yeah. I've certainly evolved. I'm a libertarian. I'm a registered. What you teach in your own home is what you teach in your home, but you got to teach respect for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Because, in my opinion, probably the hardest thing to be is an African American homosexual. A person would want to choose.
But back in the days, like in the 70s, It's like
regular schools, the stuff going on there. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like they're deteriorating the foundations of. I was born in '86. You feel me? So I can know about the '80s a little bit. You know, I remember when the teachers used to spank me on the hand with a ruler in daycare. You know what I'm talking? Because I feel like they're trying to.
When we talk than any other certain,
It's still the
you
same.
know, to be home, sticks to what America was founded on religion, the way they wanted to worship,
Right.
have, the
Protestants.
Amish, you have
Protestants.
you have folks who would just they got out of Dodge, because they wanted to worship the way they wanted to worship. So okay, we certainly didn't like how it went over there, because if we was on the wrong team over there, and if our team wasn't in power, our very lives and existence was in jeopardy. So what we do what they want to do and be what they want to be, try to make a more perfect union. And so when you go about this quest to make a more perfect union, you end up suppressing they have had in order to exist in what's called this melting pot of the United States. And then you factor in majority rule, and when you have majority rule that comes in, that's basically saying your rights and your liberties, can be taken away the numbers than they do in order for us to get out of these articles of rule everything. And so with have the First Amendment, which is our freedom, is that the majority are not supposed to be able to steal or take just because they're the majority.
Right.
So what ends up like animals, but I want to marry my animal.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're gonna have folks saying like, "Come on, man, marriage is between a man and a woman, not an animal, right?" And then, the case of Loving versus Virginia was, the Supreme Court had a case. That was a case where two consenting adults, people look at the evolution. And then folks use that the same reason why y'all said, two loving, consenting people can't do it. How about two same-sex people being able to do it? So they went before, them down if you look at precedent, because once certain states allowed same-sex marriage, like in Hawaii and other places, you knew it was only a matter of time, because there's something called comity, C-O-M-I-T-Y. Comity is the ability, if you renting a car, and you don't have to have a New York driver's license. As long as you have a valid Florida driver's license, then that state is going to respect. You can't have it in one state and not in another. Just like eventually you're going to have to legalize marijuana throughout the entire country, because you can't be having folks going to prison. You the businessman of the year. You the businessman over here.
That's it.
Well, let me inject on when same-sex marriage was legalized across America, right? It was an interesting time for me because I peeped game on that whole situation, right? Now, mind you, before they legalized it, there was a white boy that shot 9 people in the church
In South Carolina.
Now, mind you, Black Lives Matters was heavy, just like how it is back then around that time, because a whole bunch of stuff was going on. I forgot.
Dylan Roof was his name. Dylan Roof.
Shot them people. America couldn't find an excuse to say why these black people were getting killed. They had everybody else. Oh, he's a thug. Oh,
No, I look at that as the same turning point as with George Floyd.
exactly.
When people saw, like, yo, you went into.
Let me show you something. Now, Pete Gang, right? So now, when that happened with the church, before they locked them up, right? Boom, boom, boom. Black Lives Matter that had us having stuff. You feel me? But once y'all stop marching and go get married, because it was over here in Vermont. It was over here. I knew that was the last straw. They couldn't have an excuse for that. So
Deflection and
I'ma show you
distraction.
another one.
He took and I'm talking he being the current president, he looked at everything that was going on macro level and was just like, oh, okay, that's how we do it. We distract. So I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yes. And it's the weird part about it was, as soon as they sat there and gay, male, all out, let's go get married. Boom, 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 boom. They even encouraged it to where in Miami, if you come down to Miami and get married, you free hotel stay, all type of stuff just for the LGBT community to encourage them to come to Miami and get married.
I mean, but if you remember, this was the first. These were the people who really backed Obama, and the first bill that he did when he got into office.
Working and training everybody in the department, and when she finally found out, you know, that she wasn't making what other people was making, you know, the Supreme Court said that her statute of limitations had run out, and she didn't have great friend and a great attorney out of Atlanta. She says, you know, a lot of things, we get it, everyone else gets their it. This man, you know, Dylan Roof.
Right. Did it again recently. Yeah, I hope y'all realized it. The LGBT landmark. I'm gonna just say it's now illegal for any business in America to deny a transgendered person employment. You know, there could be a man walking in your business, whatever you stand for, with a full beard and a dress on, serving to your customers.
At will state, and you could do anything and fire someone for any reason as long as it's not discriminatory.
No, that's discriminatory.
Now that's the thing. Like,
I'm just
know,
trying to show.
I'm not
trying.
If they aren't qualified, then you know, don't let them do it. You don't. It is because I'm not gonna have, you know, whether they straight, gay, or whatever come up in there, depending on the situation.
I mean, based off of, for me, it'll make the actual attire.
Right.
So if you're not coming in with the right attire at my job, then I can't hire you.
Which is understandable.
We hired somebody for Chuck E. Cheese, and they come in there, you know what I'm saying, and you feel like this ain't and Outlaws on the back, and you know what I'm saying, he tatted on the head or whatever. You got a right to be like, nah, bruh. You know what I'm saying? Even and he could be the nicest kid, but you like, nah, this is not the look that I'm going for. Like, as an employee, you still have a right to say this is what I'm looking for.
Right.
But if a person comes in there and, you know, is otherwise qualified and in there dressing the part or whatever, like Teddy T said, who they sleeping with, that's on them.
Right.
Now I'm gonna tell you what I do. I'm just gonna say I don't have a problem with it.
Right.
I'm not gonna say I got a problem with it, but I just feel a kind of way. I'm still evolving. I'm still evolving. So I'm asking for a little help. I'm asking for a little help.
Okay.
So we have a Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition that is on the way. For the first time.
On the screen?
I thought he was like, bruh, I was watching like, the swimsuit model, and it was like, yeah, for the first time, the first openly transgender, and when you look at her, you know, I'm like, I don't want to, and the reason why I don't want to is because I don't want to be tricked, bruh.
So don't go to New York. I'll tell you that much.
Don't go to Brazil.
New York.
Don't go to Brazil. Don't go to Brazil, and definitely don't go down there tricking.
That'd be
Down
crazy.
in
Like,
Brazil,
imagine
boy.
the first jet transgender. We talking about.
Big ass disclaimer.
Yeah.
I think on the page before to be like, yo, I think you gotta have a bit. I just I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet.
And
bro.
don't get twisted, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't try to distract people from the main message that's going on. They don't want that. They don't want unity to making the mission happen. You know what I'm saying?
That is.
And
man.
so that's what I wanted to show out. I wanted to show you that the government also, everybody in America to work together fully because it's not profitable for them.
Okay.
They need distraction. They need chaos disagree.
No, definitely. You don't want. You
Nothing
want to stay out of
positive
the,
is interesting.
No, it's all about.
It's all
no,
about who
it's all
cheated on
right,
who.
Controversy.
Will Jada this?
No,
Entanglement that.
No, it's about the controversy,
Come on.
man. We got one more question before we get out. Deal with the labs turning in faster replace my brother. What did she say? Don't nobody bring me no bad news. Don't bring me no bad news. And so remember, the governor, Florida, good. We good. While New York was dealing with what New York was of this virus, and Florida was, seeming like we was okay, totally turned around. And so we had a lady, Rebecca Jones, who used to run the website. She's basically like a whistleblower. She's been going out there telling people, in Florida, but you really, was from out of state. They wasn't counting those numbers. Like they weren't counting, and they pull you off the plane or the boat or something like that, and keep you in international waters or something like that, or keep you isolated. But and so what we're finding also is, we got our results in what 15 minutes. We got our results. Folks is waiting 3-4 days, and then while they waiting these 3-4, they're spreading it, and then by the time they get their results, they done sprayed countless number of people, and then there's no contact tracing to find out. We're not even going to finish this first wave, bruh. We're going to have to go into a lockdown. We're going to have to go into another lockdown, especially if we're not going to do it. But
I ain't gonna lie, not to cut you off, brother. I really felt like they should have never reopened in the first place.
That's right.
You understand the reason why is because there's a reason why all this stuff is a ploy to mess up the whole masses, like we said. There's population control, all that crap. But at the same time, we all would have stayed in, you know what I'm saying, and then the government doing its job by supplying people checks to keep them afloat, which is what I feel like should have been done. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna do one stimulus check, you have enough money to keep it going.
There's no comprehensive plan, bro. Look at Canada, man. They getting like rent, and they got mortgage payments and evictions. Just
they should stop all that. They should
crunk
stop
up again.
Mortgage. They should stop paying for these bills. They know why everything's built on corporation, right? That means that there's a boss, right? That means there's somebody that's in the charge that say we could stop and we could keep going. So if the main person, which is the president, shouldn't be no water bill being collected. There should be no light bill who's doing like essential businesses that need to keep the world going. And that's it. Stores should be open. That's it. But they want to make things more complicated because it's all about the bringing the company back. But the thing is, you can't have nothing back.
Up out of here. Thank you, my brother.
Yes, sir. It's
Yeah,
OG
definitely.
Ride Out
Hey,
Show.
Elliot, you really want me to talk about that incident, man? You want me to talk about that incident on the air?